Hi, and welcome to my channel. I am Tammy Ozturk, the designer at badbobbin.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make the passport cover with a snap tab. So it's a passport cover and it has a snap tab to keep it closed, and there's many different designs that are coming out plain, so you can use whatever vinyl you want. We have appliques on them, and we also have motifs that'll sew out on them too. We have a few different designs. So very quick, easy, little pockets. It's made with vinyl, and I've used felt on the inside and the snap tab to keep it closed. And remember to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and hope you enjoy my video. Let's head on over to the cutting table and see what we need to make the passport cover with the snap tab by badbobbin.com. Okay, we're at the cutting table, and I'll show you what we need to make our passport cover with the snap tab. And I've printed out from my editing program, which I've gone ahead and made a JPEG screenshot of each design, and it'll come with the design you purchase. And you can go ahead and print that out and then put your own notes on it that you need. And I will show you these here so that you can make your notes yourself on your own sheets. And this is for the regular plain. That'll be done with no design. If you have printed vinyl, you can do this. So the main pieces will be a 10 by 6 of a vinyl and a felt, which is what I have here. So we've got a felt and a vinyl in 10 by 6, and then we've got the two pockets. So the pockets are very important of the dimensions, because the one side where the tab is, this pocket is exactly going to be the 2 1/8 by 6 inches. And that way the pocket is just going to be 1/8 over that line. So when it comes to cutting, you won't have to worry about trying to cut exactly on this one pocket. You're only going to have to cut your felt and your one piece of vinyl. And this will line up perfect at your 1/8. Then you won't have to worry about it the tab, because there's no vinyl piece to go over the tab. It's going to be your felt that's on this tab. Less density, less weight, and less waste of vinyl, because this would have been a larger piece and all you would need is that little tab for it. So it really wasn't worth it for the vinyl. For me, the felt is perfect on this tab, and it's not bulky, and so that snap is going to stay. So we want to make sure that pocket A is 6 by 2 1/8, and pocket B, to give us a little more playroom on our cutting, can be that 2 3/8, and then that will give us a nice sharp edge when we cut, and I'll show you that. So with the plain, if you have printed vinyl or textured vinyl, which is what I'm doing here, and that'll be for our plain passport cover. There's also ones with motifs. There'll be a couple of them of different types of motifs, and this will be stitched out, and I'm going to stitch that on a plain marine vinyl. Then we have 3 of them that have appliques. And I'm going to be doing the applique right now on video, so I can show you how to do the applique. So there's an oval applique, there's a rectangle, and then there's a full applique on the full piece of vinyl. So I will hold them up and you can take your notes on them. And our pockets are the same on all of them. So the pockets are the exact. Pocket A is 6 2 1/8. Pocket B will 6 2 3/8. And then our applique, depending on which way it's in your hoop. So I've pointed out that the tab, wherever that tab is what's going to determine the top or the bottom of your design, of your cover. And that's because of the way it's closing, and the tab's going to go over it, determines your design, whether you have a directional design. So this will be the top and the bottom. So I'm going to be like this here. I'm going to be doing the Sally and Jack. So we want the top of the applique. We want to make sure our design's in the proper way. So depending on where the tab is depending on which way you're going to be putting. And I've marked that on here so that you know. So with the applique, you're going to need a 4 by 5.5 piece. And then for the rectangle on the front cover is going to be 4 by 5.5 as well. Top and the bottom, and the tab is over here on our left side. And then this one here happens to be, it was shifted, or actually, flipped over. So the tab here is on our right side, which means our design is going to be upside down. So the bottom of our design and applique is on the top, and the top of the applique is going to be over here at the bottom. So depending on where that tab is or how it's in your hoop is where it determines on the top or bottom of your applique or your directional vinyl. And same thing, your pockets are all the same size, and you're going to be measuring from the center line 1 3/4 and for the top of your pocket. All right, so those are the different ones. The motif one is just going to be a basic, there's the regular pocket measurements, of course, but I didn't write it on here. I just left it as the motif. I have all the dimensions here. So those are your dimensions. You can pause, and there we go. All right, so that's for the passport. And a little hint on how I did my appliques and cutting. I happened to get a clear piece of vinyl, and with a Sharpie permanent marker, I drew out where the applique is going to be, and it happens they're pretty much the same, just one's oval, one's rectangle. So I drew it on my piece of vinyl, and then knowing that I only need so much at the edges to cut, and the dimensions of what I measured, or I mentioned for cutting, the 4 by 5.5, is on this, my little rule. I have 4 by 5.5. So I kind of centered this on top. It kind of sticks because it's, you know, sticky. So I centered it in between my 4 and 5.5 markings and kind of pressed it down, and it stays. So it just sticks right to your cutting ruler. And now I know where I'm going to measure and cut, and I can make sure that that part that I want in that applique is going to be right in the center. So I did it on these 2 different ones. So I know this will be right in the center, and I know I have enough set on me, and there we go. So it's perfect. This was just a little tip on how to measure and make sure that it's going to line up, and it's right on top of our little cutting ruler. So we have everything we need. I'm only going to show on video the applique, and I might do a couple little clips here and there of the other ones while they're stitching out, and then you will see the final of all the different designs that I have. So let's head on over to the machine and get started. All right, we're at the machine, and we have our materials. I'm going to do the oval applique. So we're going to start out first with our placement stitch. All right. I already have everything in the machine ready to go, and here we go. Okay, so we have our placement box, and I'm going to use a tacky spray to tack down my vinyl. And not too much, just a little bit. And our applique's on this side, so I'm just going to line it up within the box. There we go. So our piece is the 6 by 10, and I lined it up inside the box. We'll put it back in, and we're going to do a outline of the main piece to tack down, and then we're going to do a placement of where we're going to put our fabric. Okay, I'll take it out of the machine for a moment, and I'll show you. So we have our outline for our applique, and it did a tack down of the box, and the tab is going to be on this side. So since I have the room here, since the tab is going to be on my right, that means everything is upside down. So I'm going to put my design or my directional pattern, I'm going to put it upside down since the tab's on this side, all right? So we want to make sure, follow our little paper as to which is the top and which is the bottom, so that when you have the book and you close it and the tab's going to go over it, the tab's going to come over here, so our book is upside down. So I'm going to use a little bit of tacky again. You can either tape it or I use tacky. The tacky just kind of helps keep it in place even afterwards. Once it's sewn and stuff, it kind of keeps it down. All right. Let me lift that arm a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm gonna kind of eyeball it, looking at the sides to center it up and down. And then moving this way, move it more in the center. And I think we've got it pretty much centered where I want it. Let's move it just a tad bit over. And it's repositionable tacky spray, so that's another good thing. And I think that might be good. I balled it pretty well. And with the tacky spray, it stays, so it's not going to move, fall. We're on it. So now we're going to stitch out the tacking or the tack down line, pull it back out, and we're going to cut it after that. All right. So it did our tack down stitch around it. And I chose to use, since it's the Gryffindor, the maroon vinyl and the stitching thread, I've used the goldenrod. So I'm going to take my 4-inch curved embroidery scissors and I'm going to go ahead and cut around, and I'm going to cut as close as I can to that stitch line. These are not my best scissors. I can't find the good ones, so do my best here. And we want to cut as close to the stitch line, right at it. We're going to go all the way around. There we go. So we've cut all the way around, all the way up to the line. It's really close there. All right. And even if there's like a little spot or something, go ahead and cut it off so that it's not going to be hanging out. So you want to make sure it's really close, if not right at that stitch line. And we're going to place it back in the machine. And it's going to go, it's going to do the satin stitch all the way around. And that'll keep our applique down. You can also use vinyl for your applique if you want as well, besides the fabric. Perfect. Did a nice little satin stitch all the way around. We did really good. Centered it pretty good too. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and add our flannel piece, or sorry, our felt piece to the back. And I'm just going to singe a couple of these threads to make sure they're tied off and not hanging out. So I'm going to do the same thing with a little bit of tacky spray. And I'm going to cover my back. Make sure it's lined up in the center of my box. And we lightly, there we go. And then I'm going to press it really good once I flip it back over. So that tacky spray has kept it there. Or you can tape it, up to you. And I'm going to go ahead and put it back in the machine, and I'm going to run the tack down around the box, and then it's going to do our tab, and it's going to run our bean stitch around our tab, because our tab will be complete and finished on that one. And we're going to go ahead and run that part. All right, and I did our center spine of our book as well. There we go. Let's check the back. Back looks pretty good, and we should have used another the same color for the bobbin, but I didn't. So we're working with what we got. It's going to be white. So that would be there we go, a mistake, and a tip for you that if you want to use the same color bobbin for the back side. Since it did that bean stitch, the yellow kind of came through, so I don't think we'll have that much of a problem when we add our pockets. It's going to do that bean stitch, so I think that yellow is going to pop through, so we might be safe on that part. So with this, we have our two pockets, and there are two different sizes to the pockets. So you'll notice that the one pocket we did cut a little bit shorter, so it is shorter. So our short pocket is going to go on our tab side, and the larger pocket is going to go on the opposite side. So we're going to measure from our center line, which is the center line here. We're going to measure out 1 3/4. So that 1 3/4, where we are, it's right here on my little handy dandy little ruler here. And it should be about centering it from top to bottom, measuring it, and we want a nice clean side on both sides. That's why we want to make sure when we cut it. And there should only be about 1/8 hanging over. You can take a look and a peek. We have a little bit more than 1/8. So if it's up to you, you can always scoot it back a little bit so that it's just 1/8 hanging. In that case, it'll be a nice cut we don't have to worry about. And it's only going to be on the inside, which you will not see in your passport book because it'll be covered by, you know, your pages and stuff. So you can always just that one little bit that's going to be pushed in this way to make sure that it's only 1/8 on this side. We want to make sure it's even. So you can do it either way. I'm going to measure from this side and make sure it's only 1/8. That saves me on my cutting. Sorry if my hands are in the way, but I'm trying to get it even here. There we go. I think I'm pretty good. We're going to go ahead and tape. I have my tape ready. I'm going to tape the edges. You want to make sure it's just close enough but not into the stitch line. And then you can add a piece on the inside since it's not going to stitch on the inside there. And we'll go ahead and measure the same thing on the other side. 1 3/4. And this side doesn't really matter. There'll be enough hanging over to make that nice clean straight cut we're going to make. So there we go. Get some tape. I'm going to tape the side. And somebody in a group earlier today was commenting about their stabilizer not being long enough or big enough. This is the stabilizer that's actually off the roll. And what I've done is you can see that it just barely makes it. And I made the comment also. Go ahead and hoop it. And depending on the project you're doing, if you're doing a heavy duty project with a lot of stitching and pull and stuff, you wouldn't do this. You want to make sure you have full stabilizer in all sides of your hoop. So, but if you're doing something like this, where it's just single stitches and you're just layering and it's nothing real big or heavy that's going to pull, I just do this exactly. I tape my stabilizer onto the hoop I'll stretch it and pull it to make it tight, and then just use some tape, and I just tape it to the hoop. So that's just one little trick. Some say, oh, I don't have a stabilizer that's big enough or long enough. It's hanging, but it is tight on the sides or the ends. So just a little tip on that part. So we're all set. I have everything taped down. We're going to flip it over. We're going to press down where all the tape is and make sure that it's secured. Don't want it flipping up on us. And we want to make sure we put it in the machine properly. That's another thing. So I'm going to add my label. So this is my label. And I'm going to add it inside the pocket. And I'm just going to tuck it in. Doesn't matter, either side you can put it in. But I'll make sure it's just in enough to kind of tuck it away and hide it, but enough that they're going to be able to read it if they ever want to call or get another book. It's right there. Flip it back over. And we're going to put it back in the machine. We're going to lift up, making sure that everything set, nothing got pushed by the plate, nothing dislodged. And this will be our last bean stitch around for the pockets. All right. Yay, we're done. That was our final. Everything went good. Nothing dislodged, nothing flipped or turned. We take our tape off. And this is complete. I'm going to go ahead and stitch out a few of the other designs. And I'll show you just quick little portions of it in the video, quick stitch outs of it. But this came out perfect, exactly that 1/8. That's exactly what we want, so we don't have to worry about this trying to cut right here in the tab. It came out perfect. So happy on that part. So I'm going to do a couple of the other passport covers and show a little bit of the stitching on those, and we'll take them all over to the cutting table and finish them up. So we'll take a look at some of the other ones as I stitch them. All right, we're finished and we're at the cutting table now. I'm going to take it out of the hoop, take the stabilizer off, and trim any of the threads. Okay, we've trimmed our threads, singed them a little bit. Oh, here's one more little tiny thing hanging out here. Oh, there we go. So the next thing I'm going to do is I will take my straight blade and my rotary, and I'm going to go ahead and cut up my sides. And I'm cutting at 1/8 of an inch. So that 1/8 is the first little dash here before the quarter. So the 1/8 line, I'm going to line that up right on the stitch line. I usually go with that 1/8, a little bit to my inside of that stitch line to have a nice thin edge left. And we hold our rotary straight up and down while we do this, and we're going to go straight up, hold firm, and that's that one. All right. So for this next part, we do this by hand with our scissors, or we can measure just slightly. This is where the 1/8 comes in. If we did our 1/8 perfectly right here, that's where it's going to come in perfect. So we'll do that 1/8 on that line, and you can go ahead and cut up towards your tab and then after your tab. So it's going to look like this when we're done, or we can do it by hand with the scissors all the way through. I'll do this one by hand with the scissors to show you, and then this one here, I'll show you how to finish it off once we do this with the rotary. Here's our little D note, as you have noticed, why I have 2 of these. As we were stitching, it was in my hoop with my tab on the right, and if the tab is on your right, my design should have been upside down. So it wasn't. I was more worried about it getting centered and everything on film that I totally forgot that I needed to flip it. So if you're able to flip your design in your hoop, the best thing to do would be to have your tab on your left side. So if you're able to flip it in the hoop, you want your tab on your left side, and that means your design's going to go right up, straight up and down, top and bottom. So I messed up. And that's what happened. When you mess up, it's going to be upside down once the tab. So little lesson learned. I do make mistakes too. So my mistakes are your gains so that you know what not to do. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this one out with my scissors very carefully. And once I get into the edge, I want to try to get this squared off if I can and come around. And I'll show you how to finish this. All right, so that's by hand doing it this way, and then we can, if you have sharp scissors where the points, you can always get into your corners and sharpen the corners off. But I think we did really good, and with this 1/8, it just makes it look very nice and clean. All right, so with the other one, I went ahead with the rotary, I measured, and I got it right up to my tab, and then after the tab, and then I'm just going to take the scissors to finish off this tab. There we go. That's how you would get into the sharp corners. All right, so we'll take our good one here, and we're now going to add our snap to it. So you want to have your passport ready. If you don't have a passport, I think our mini books might be a good size as well, that you can at least get it in there for the thickness, so that you know how thick it's going to be when you want to fold over your tab. And you don't want it too tight. You want just a little bit, just in case you want to put your ID card in there with it, or your plane ticket or something wants to go in with this, or tuck it into the pocket. You'll leave just a little bit of leeway or room. So I'm going to first put the hole in my tab. And you only want to go maybe, I'll measure that for you, about a 1/2 inch down. So about a 1/2 inch down centered. We're going to go ahead and poke our hole. And then I'm going to put my cap into it. And I'm going to push it down, make sure that the pokey part, the pokey, and they can poke you pretty hard, sticks out. I put my book inside just to get my thickness. Fold it over, make sure it's even, and make sure the spine is at the end, folded. And then I'm just going to fold this over and make it straight. You know, I want to make sure it's not crooked or off or, you know, uneven. So I'm just going to fold right over. Give a little bit of push for, you know, backwards. So there's a little bit of a gap here. And then I'm going to go ahead and push a little bit. And that's just going to give me a little dimple point in my fabric. So I happen to find it. I know it's hard to find, but it kind of just gives that little dimple so you know where. Then you're going to go ahead and push the awl through, but not all the way through the pocket. This snap does not go through the pocket. We're going to go inside our pocket. So we're going to carefully work the awl so you don't stab your fingers, and you can feel it coming through, so spread your fingers, and then you're going to go ahead and push your awl. Fold that back so you can see, and you're going to push the awl all the way through. All right, and then you're just gonna fold this down a little bit to help. You know, some vinyls aren't as pliable, so be a little gingerly with it. And then once you have the awl in there, we're gonna take our other cap, and the cap is gonna go inside the pocket and come out. And I know it's dark flannel, or I mean fleece that we are, not even that, our felt that we use, so it's gonna be a little hard to find the hole as to where to put this, but we'll see it here. Take the awl out. So you can kind of see the hole there. And we're going to go ahead and put our snap cap in there, have it come out the other side, push it through. There we go. So it's pushed through. So when I do snap, some people ask, does it matter which end goes where? It really doesn't, but it's up to you. But there kind of is a rule of thumb. Usually the receiving end, the larger part of your project is what gets the female. It gets the receiving end. So I'm going to put it here. I'm going to do this one first since I already have it in my hand and ready to go. And I'm going to wedge this into my handheld. I have a table press that I use that's on a stand, so that kind of helps get it really good. If you use a vinyl in here for your applique, you might want to use the long prongs. So that's just a tip, that if it's not staying and you're not getting a good leverage to crimp it down, you may want to use the long prongs if you're using a thicker, with the felt, the vinyl, and then a vinyl applique. Your thickness is a little bit thicker, so just a hint on that, you may want to use the long prongs, but I don't have them in the yellow, so I'm gonna use the table to press down and get it to go. So I use my body to press onto it to give it some leverage so that I make sure I really get it good. And we're going to work that out. There we go. Perfect. It's not through our pocket, it's inside. Here's my little label. And it's on the outside. So then we're going to go ahead and finish our tab part. And the tab part gets the male part. All right. Same thing on my snap tabs as well. The tab up here always gets the male, and the project or the bottom or the main part gets the female. Use the table again, push, and there we go. Snap, make sure it closes and opens, make sure your snap's not going to split. Always give it a couple tests. I always do before I give a project or sell a project or anything, product. Make sure the snap works. And there we go. This is our little Harry Potter one. And we'll put our passport in there. Perfect. There we go. That's our passport holder. And works great. So this is our passport holder with a snap tab by Bad Bobbin. And there's going to be many different designs. So this one is an oval applique. We have a rectangle applique. We have motifs, a couple of them. This one is the floral motif, floral 1. There's the floral 2, and then there's a toucan that'll be done. And then we have the regular so that you can use your own printed vinyls, your own textured vinyls. This, you know, for a male, this was really great. I love this vinyl. I got it from my punk broidery for these two. I'm pretty sure that's where, and then my purple came from them as well. So there's a few, here's one that's going to be a full applique. I'll have a picture of that too, which is going to, the applique covers the back and the front. So it ends up being, the applique is the whole book cover. And a few of these designs are now going to be on our mini comp book as well with the snap tab. I'm going to go ahead and make up a bunch of those different ones for you as well. So here we are finishing up. Hope you enjoyed my video. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, remember to hit the bell so you'll get more notifications from me on other awesome projects. And I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. See you at the cutting table.